Good to have you on the show, Julia. Now, what are the latest measures that Russia has announced?
Well, yes, indeed. So we've seen those 23 European and other Western countries, their ambassadors were summoned yesterday to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where one by one they went in and out and were told that their diplomats were being expelled in tit-for-tat mirror measures that were taken against Russia in the expulsion of their diplomats from those embassies around the world. And then, of course, as you said, Russia then took slightly further measures against the UK by announcing that the diplomatic mission of the UK in Russia would need to be reduced to match the size of that of the Russian one in the UK. And we heard today from the Russian Foreign Ministry that that means about 50 people or so will have to be sent home from Russia to the UK. So that's taking things a bit further than the back and forth tit-for-tat equal responsive measures that Russia has been taking against other countries. Meanwhile, today we're seeing 171 Russians being flown back to Moscow. So those are the 60 diplomats who were in the US who were expelled by America in response to the poisoning of Sergei Skripal, which the UK holds Russia responsible for.
Okay, and Julia, we're hearing that Russia is also accusing British authorities of searching a Russian plane. What more do we know about this?
Yes, so today the Ministry of Transportation in Russia has demanded an explanation from British authorities because it says that last night at Heathrow Airport in London, a Aeroflot passenger plane was searched. And it says it accuses them of having done so without the presence of the crew, which it says is flouting international law. And if there's no explanation from the UK side, Russia will reserve the right to take similar measures against British passenger planes that are flying to Russia. And so we don't know whether this was an inbound or outbound Aeroflot plane, so we don't know whether it was on its way into London or back to Moscow. But it's an Aeroflot flight that flies from Moscow to London and back to Moscow again. So they say that this is part of an anti-Russia campaign. They say that without an explanation, the only conclusion can be drawn that it's part of the growing hostilities that the UK is exercising on Russia. But there is some sign that there could be something of a thaw, despite all of this bad news in the growing row between the two countries. Today, we heard from the UK officials that they are considering giving consular access to Russian officials to Yulia Skripal, the daughter of the Russian double agent who was poisoned. She is exclusively a Russian citizen, and the Russians have been complaining that they've been denied access to her. We learned in the last couple of days that her condition in hospital has been improving, and so they may now be willing to offer access to the Russian officials soon.
Okay, Julia, thanks so much for that. That was Julia Chapman for us from Moscow.